Hi everyone, Kevin is here. In today's video, I will talk about the proxemics of the mediated voice, a less known idea in media study that I think might become widely used as a field to try to get away from the ocular centrism and trying to find a way to talk about mediated experiences in different ways. And in this case, we talk about the sound. The proxemics of mediated voice was first introduced by Arnt Maasø, a Norwegian media scholar who is interested in music and media and sound study in the film and TV. And in the nutshell, the proxemics of mediated voice refer to a study of spatial aspects of the voice in media that have the potential in regulating expressive and communicative features of the message. Because as we all know, the communication is not all about the language, but also things like attitudes and emotions that voice carries. However, I think that we should look at this keyword into two chunks, proxemics and the mediated voice. So let's start with the mediated voice. Maasø recognized that the sound of a voice in face-to-face interaction and in media are starkly different. In that in face-to-face communication, speaker and listener are tied together in time and space. This can be understood through inverse square law of sound and intensity and distance that sits between the two speakers. But when sound is mediated, the law of physics and everyday experience are largely suspended. I will give an example from Gossip Girl if I can. Let's see.
Chip and I are going to grow old together. Without you. Or I make my own.
Where did you get that?
Okay. So, as you can see, Chuck, when Chuck like whisper to Nate, it's like the volume of the voice is similar to the woman who speak in the scene. So this kind of voice become like ambiguous in terms of space. That in real life the whisper should be um like not loud, right? But this time is as loud as the shouting woman. So in this case, the mediated voice, um, those kind of law of physical law just being thrown out of the window. So now let's deal with the proxemics. So Maasø is inspired by anthropologist Edward T. Hall, who coined the term proxemics to describe the importance of spatial proximity and physical relationship between subjects in interaction and communication. Proxemics matters because it indexes social behavior and social context. For example, how do couples will display the act of affection in public space? Maybe. Or how colleagues keep distance between one another in different situations, like in the meeting or in the pantry or in the company's party. So halls come up with four main proxemic zones, including an intimate zone where subjects were within 18 inches of each other, like these two persons who seems to be in love. The second one is a personal zone from around 18 inches to 4 feet, like this. And third, a social zone from 4 to 12 feet. And the last one, a public zone, so more than 12 feet. As and within these spaces, there is like a near and far region of each zone. So as you can see, the relationship and the communication method of communication can be, indicate through the proximics. So as Maasø smushes these two together, the proxemics of the mediated voice try to answer the question that centers around the act of mediation that influence in sound, and how it is perceived in terms of distance between the media and listener. So, this so he thinks that he want to try to emphasize what he try. So I think what he tried to emphasize is that the proxemic zones that is represented in the mediatic voice, and how it gets into our skin, and how it influences our experience of spatial relationship in social situation. I think I would share that. I mean, as you saw from uh, Gossip Girl example, all the sounds become ambiguous, and how this kind of ambiguous space and sound get into our skin, and we become like perceived in a specific way. So then Maasø comes up with 3 levels of analysis of this concept. Includes vocal distance, intended earshot, and microphone perspective. The vocal distance is the way voice signified a proximic relationship as it is in interpersonal communication. For example, the whisper is intended for the listener within the touching distance. And then the second one, intended earshot, describe the primary heard distance signaled by the volume of the voice. For example, the voice of the public speaking is generally louder than the small talks. And lastly, microphone perspective indicates how technological apparatus become high stake in judging the distance, since the acoustical characteristic become manipulated and ambiguous by the microphone. This concept remind me strongly of the movie Roma by Alfonso Cuarón, that there are tons of moments in the movie that he play with the sounds and with this 3 dimension of the proxemics of the voice. For example, in this scene of protest on the street. Roma. Okay. Okay, I think that's enough. As you can see, the sound in the car and the sound from the outside is ambiguous, and it's sort of like show sort of like nuances between the space between the main character and the people on the street, and the sound from the perspective of the police in the scene. So I think that is amazing. So this assemblages of the vocal proximity, he called uh, these three levels uh, of uh, proximity become like mixed and become blended and become separated at the same time. He called this thing as schizophrenia. That is how Norwegian the thing is. So he want to explain that the schizophrenia means this characteristic of phonic sound as splitting and blending of the original sound and the electroacoustic reproduction. In one level, Roma brings audience to 1970s Mexico, but in another level, the movie bring the audience to that street in 1970s Mexico through the recreated sonic scenes that the proxemics of the mediated voice allows. Maasø then hypothesized this ambiguous proxemics relation can lead to the schizophonic average, which mean how the three level of the proxemics of mediated voices blend together and split to play different roles, which give an ambiguous voice in the film that is intimate and public in space at the same time. The example of from the Gossip Girl and Roma explain this quite well, I think. So lastly, not to mention how this concept can give us the approach to analyze the sound of in the media, but it can help us to historicize the way the media production put the sound into the film, and we can look through time that how the intimacy of the media sound changed through time, and voila, this is the history of sound in film. So yeah, that's all for me. Thanks for bearing with me, and yeah, hope you have a nice weekend.